Will the ghosts of Patriots past have an impact on their future? Better yet, will they have an impact on their present? Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Welcome to the Locked On Patriots podcast, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to ensure that you get the latest episode as soon as it's available. I am your host, Mike Debate, and I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country of Sports Illustrated. So reach out to me and let me know what's on your mind on Twitter at MDABATENFL. And while you're out there showing some much-deserved love to the Twitterverse, please be sure to follow the Locked On Patriots account as well at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, as always, thank you for joining me here today. A special shout-out, a heartfelt shout-out, as always, to all of you Locked On everydayers out there. All of you Locked On Patriots loyalists, those of you who make this pod possible, my unending appreciation to you. I'm honored, I'm humbled by your support each and every day. And Pats fans, today on Locked On Patriots, I have the pleasure of welcoming not just one, not even two, but three of the top Patriots historians in the business today. That's right, folks. It's going to be a fun episode, a special episode here on Locked On Patriots. You might say that my guests today are the caretakers of the Untold, as in the Untold Patriots Stories Podcast. The triumvirate of hosts of that podcast join me here today on the pod. Bob Hyldburg, author of Total Patriots. Folks, it's a tremendous read. If you haven't had the chance to check this out, please do so. Also joined by Scott Prusak, Dave Usher, and they will lend their wisdom and counsel to the pod by discussing the Patriots OTA session from Wednesday. Mac Jones, Bill Belichick, Joe Judge, no topic is left unsaid. And they're going to actually inject a little bit of historical context into this discussion today. And with that historical insight, they're going to enlighten us on how this is preparing them for the upcoming 2023 Patriots season. What do they think of the Patriots offense? What do they think of the defense, the special teams, the coaching? Myself and my three esteemed guests today, Bob, Scott, and Dave, are going to break it all down for you. So without further ado, let's welcome in the hosts of the Untold Patriots Stories here today on Locked On Patriots. Patriots fans, thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage and also your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On Patriots is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And folks, in the spirit of your team, what better way can we celebrate your favorite team in Foxborough than with three of the greatest Patriots historians I've ever had the privilege of meeting in this walk of life. They are the triumvirate of hosts of Untold Patriots Stories Podcast. Three of the great guys you'll ever meet as well. Bob Hyldburg, Scott Prusak, Dave Usher. Gentlemen, welcome to Locked On Patriots. Long time coming. So happy to welcome you here to the pod.
Well, thanks for having us on, Mike. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Mike.
Absolutely. And gentlemen, you know, I really feel like I'm in the presence of Patriots historical royalty right now. And I truly am, folks. If you ever listen to Untold Patriot Stories, I guarantee you will love this listen. Do not miss an opportunity to check it out wherever you get your podcasts. Something that we're all waiting for right now, and that is a prognostication on the 2023 New England Patriots. After the season that the Patriots had in 2022, everybody is looking to clear the slate and move forward. We've heard Bill O'Brien talk about it. Mac Jones joined us at OTAs on Wednesday and talked about clearing that slate and moving forward. So in the interest of moving forward, Scott, I'm going to start with you. The Patriots offense clearly struggled in 2022 under the direction of Matt Patricia, just a regression in most statistical categories. Patriots unfortunately looked extremely uncomfortable, as did Mac Jones. And we're starting to see indications that this team may be on the rebound. Bill O'Brien coming in, really establishing himself as the alpha in the room. Mac looks to be more comfortable. Things look to be a little bit more cohesive. But you know as well as I that practices only tell you so much. And a lot of times what you need to do is take a look at where the Patriots have been in order to determine where they're going. Based on what you've seen historically with the Patriots, bouncing back after adversity, especially under Bill Belichick, what are you looking to see in this Patriots offense this year? And do you believe we'll see a better product than we did last season?
Well, I think if you just look at it from the point of view of having Bill O'Brien in charge of the offense, I think there's no way that it can't be any better. But by all reports today at the OTA today, it was noted that Bill O'Brien was kind of left to himself, and Bill Belichick wasn't in his ear, so that the offense is truly his. I think if you remember back to last year, the reports coming out were that Belichick was in the ear of Matt Patricia and Joe Judge a lot of the time. So I would think just by that alone, if you're giving it to Bill O'Brien, who's done it before and ran an effective offense, I think if you're just giving it to him to run it and not get involved and kind of have a hands-off approach, I think, that's one step in the right direction. I think the biggest thing is the offense really hasn't changed much from last year. I mean, they added Mike Gesicki, but other than that, there's really not a lot of difference. I guess the biggest improvement would have to come from Mac Jones. I think this year he needs to be much more of a leader. I think he needs to, show his presence and, being in charge of the team on the field. I think the outburst that he had on the sidelines last year, I don't think helped his leadership, situation at all. So, I mean, I guess my one concern would be, it looks like we got, a stud cornerback in the draft, but we really didn't address the offense. And I really think that Mac Jones needs one of those special weapons that every offense that's a special offense or a good offense in the NFL, they all have one. I mean, we had, Diggs in Buffalo. Every team that does anything on offense has one of those, and we don't. DeAndre Hopkins is out there right now, and the word is it'll take 10 to 13 million to get him. He might be a little bit past his prime, but he needs just one of those main guys because we really don't know, what we have. I mean, Bourne could be that guy, but, he ended up in the doghouse last year. So even though he put up some good numbers in games, he was relegated to the bench. So you got Bourne, you have Gesicki that they added. You got Hunter Henry, Devontae Parker, right? I mean, I don't know who else who's the main guy? Who's that guy that can, they have to double or, has that breakaway speed down the field. I guess, we're going to find that out this year, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a fair point. I mean, you look at the New England Patriots, they don't have that take the top off the defense type receiver or that number one caliber receiver that has not just the prowess on the field, but also the reputation to go along with it. And I know some of the listeners are probably going to scoff when I say that, but reputation does count. A name like DeAndre Hopkins, even though he may be missing a step in terms of his speed, he's still a contested catch machine and someone that can automatically command the attention of a defense just by walking on the field. So I agree with you. I think there is a concern there. Bob, all right, I'll throw the question to you now. With the New England Patriots and the way they're currently constituted when it comes to this offense, Scott mentioned some names, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki coming in, obviously Hunter Henry coming back for another tour of duty, obviously Kendrick Bourne is someone we talked about. Tyquan Thornton looked phenomenal out on the field on Wednesday during OTAs. Is this a concern for the New England Patriots right off the bat?
The draft picks that we picked up, I mean, I know they're rookies, but I'm hearing some, good things about some of these guys. We got two guys, KB, Bourne and Boutte, or whatever, how you pronounce his name. And then we got Double D, Demario Douglas. I mean, so I like some of the fun names that are out there. And, one of the guys that I really want to look for is, we used to have Steve Martin on the defensive line, and now we got Bill Murray on the team. So, we're hoping that, we can bring some levity and some fun to the offensive line now. So I'm excited, but the offensive line is a big concern for me. I mean, the receivers they're going to be fine. Just give Mac a chance to throw the ball downfield, and I think Hunter Henry is due for a comeback, and JuJu I think is going to get in the end zone, and Jacoby just didn't get into the end zone. Let's get some guys in the end zone. Let's put some points up.
Yeah, without question. I'm so glad that you mentioned JuJu, because in a lot of ways he is sometimes, I think, the forgotten man in this offense. And it's odd to say that because he was one of the more high-profile free agent acquisitions the Patriots made. But I think a lot of people are forgetting his prowess in adding yards after the catch, his ability to do last year what, like you said, Jacoby unfortunately could not do. Wasn't that he wasn't capable of providing solid, pass catching ability from Mac Jones. It just wasn't his game. And that's where Mac is at his best. The receiver gets under the defense, and then from that point, it puts the receiver in a position to add yards after the catch. That's where Bill O'Brien is at his best. That is where Mac Jones is at his best. And you mentioned the offensive line, and I'm glad that you did. And Dave, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will put you on the spot. The Patriots obviously had their offensive line struggles last season. Isaiah Wynn just did not round into form in the tackle position switch. Trent Brown had an up and down season. You and I think a lot of people out there in Patriots Nation, but he's been maligned on this podcast. And you know what? We're going to wish Isaiah the best of luck in Miami. And just leave
it's not New England.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just save for 2 games per year. But bottom line, the Patriots have chosen not to go with high-profile replacements at the tackle position this year. A lot of people thought they'd go that direction in the NFL draft. They did not. Riley Rafe, Calvin Anderson, 2 solid veterans that are going to come in, provide good minutes for you, but they're not game changers at the position. How worried are you about this offensive line protecting Mac Jones? Because as good as he looked on Wednesday throwing the ball, if he's not getting the time he needs to complete passes, we might be doomed to see a repeat of 2022. And I know no one in Patriots Nation wants to see that.
No, that's a good, great point. I mean, first of all, I think Scott was on his best behavior because Scott's that you threw him with a topic he usually likes to expound on in maybe a little bit of a negative way. But so, and one of those being Mac Jones. Mac Jones, I've kind of said that I give him a pass for last year. I don't think he had a fair. It wasn't a fair thing to judge him on with what he was working with, in my opinion. So this is a make or break year for him. And he's not I bring that up because I say he's not the most mobile guy in the world. To get back to your question, he needs that protection. As you mentioned, we addressed it with a few free agent people. They took a couple of guards in the draft. But what I think the biggest change is going to come about there is with the hiring of Adrian Clem. I think that's going to be a big piece of it. We were lucky enough to have on our podcast or an upcoming show that we've taped already, Dante Scarnecchia recently, asked him about his thoughts on Clem, and he gave him his stamp of approval. So while I like to think I appreciate all his accolades at the beginning that we know a lot about the Patriots, I'm gonna default to Dante and his 34 years of experience with the team to say that he. Interestingly enough, I won't, people come watch the podcast when we post it. But one of the things he said was not only did he, get to see him as a player, he got to see him as a coach. He went down there and checked him out. And at the end of it, he said to him, and I'll clean this up a little bit, "Wow, Adrian, you're a bigger a-hole than I was as an offensive line coach." And that was meant in a complimentary way. He really, one of his things he said was he really runs a tight ship and gets these guys together. So if they do have some flexibility, and you saw by the OTAs today, you had guys, doing different positions. I mean, obviously Brown was out, so they needed some people over at left tackle. They experimented a little bit with that today. So they can have some flexibility there. Hopefully that they can give the time that Mac needs.
Yeah, great point. Michael Owenu and Trent Brown both absent from the field on Wednesday, and Owenu definitely was expected. Trent Brown, you kind of have to expect that early on, especially when You're talking about his age, the position that he plays, injury history. You want to make sure he's as healthy as possible, and I think that's exactly what the Patriots are doing right now. But once again, you bring that up, and you bring up the wisdom and counsel of Dante Scarnecchia. Several times on this podcast, I've called him the ultimate consigliere of Patriot Nation. You ever need help, if you ever need help, who is a better consigliere than Dante Scarnecchia? And definitely, folks, check that out on Untold Patriots Stories. I'm going to be first in line to check that out. Anytime Dante puts voice to microphone, it's gold. And with these gentlemen, it's even more gold. Folks, we have talked about the offense, but one of the biggest offseason acquisitions for the Patriots offensively was a new offensive coordinator. We've danced around the subject of Bill O'Brien a little bit. How's he going to work with Bill Belichick? How's he going to work with Adrian Clem? What does it mean for the Patriots on the field? And Gerard Mayo taking on a bigger role with the New England Patriots. Talking Patriots coaches and the defensive side of the ball when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues. Patriots fans, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. I know the NBA Finals might be leaving a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth if you are a green teamer, but it is still an exciting time of year, and there's no better place to bet all of the playoff action than America's #1 sports book. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Pats fans, thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots your first listen every day. Don't forget, tomorrow here on the pod, the illustrious Claire Cooper joins me. We're going to be talking Patriots offense again. We're going to be talking about some tight endage. You know it's Claire's favorite subject. And we're also going to be talking a little Mac Jones. But today we continue to be honored by the presence, the wisdom, the counsel, Bob, Scott, Dave. Incredible stuff so far, gentlemen. And we talked a lot about the offense in the previous segment, but one of the Patriots' biggest offseason splashes was the move to bring in Bill O'Brien from Alabama, second tour of duty here in New England as the offensive coordinator. So far, you're hearing all the right things. We spoke to Mac Jones after practice. He said that the offense feels comfortable. Bill is commanding the room. It feels like things are back to normal. Things you want to hear your quarterback say, but things that you're a little unsettled that your quarterback had to say, which means that they were so out of sorts last year. But you know what? We're not going to talk about the past. We're going to focus on the future. And we also talked to Bill Belichick, who had nothing but glowing things to say about Bill O'Brien. Bob, we'll start with you because we started with Scott in the previous segment. When you look at this team, the way the coaching staff is set up, primarily on offense right now with Bill, of course, obviously holding the trump card, for lack of a better term. He is the top of the heap. But with Bill, with Adrian, like Dave said last year, what does this coaching staff alignment tell you about the type of product we're going to see in New England in 2023?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of pressure. I mean, the Patriots haven't won a playoff game in a long time. You know, it seems like decades ago, even though it's been less than that. But we're so hungry for a playoff. So they really got to step it up, and they've got a really beginning of the season to really win a couple games and put themselves in the map. I mean, I know Sports Illustrated is saying they're going to win the division. I mean, it's going to be a tough division. So it's good that they're starting now and getting on the same page. And I'm excited about it because having Mac comfortable, I mean, that's the whole thing of the mindset of having him comfortable and going out there and having that expertise of having Bill coach him before. And when Bill was here, you know, in 2011, I mean, we had two quarterbacks that their passer rating was over 100. So if Zappi's got to step in, you know, here and there, I don't know that that's going to happen, but let's hope it doesn't. Let's give Zappi another year. But I think Mac being comfortable is the whole thing. And I'm excited about this season because those are two heavyweight guys, Bill and Bill, and we need both of them to step it up. And the pressure's on them more than it has been for a long, long time to win and at least make the playoffs and win a playoff game. So there's a lot of people that are holding their breath that the Bill and Bills are going to pull this through.
Yeah, you guys being the historians that you are, I don't need to tell you the excitement level that it sends through football fans when you hear about the two Bills doing their thing at the top of the heap when coaching staff. Obviously, that was with the Giants, but they did a pretty good job here in their couple of years in New England as well here. But we're looking for more from these Bills without any question. We want the Patriots to get to the promised land this time. And Scott, that lends me quite nicely into my next question for you, because we hear a lot about the pressure on Bill O'Brien. Bob just talked about it, and coming in, righting the ship, kind of clearing up the difficulties that they had with Matt Patricia last year and Joe Judge. And just was not an easy time when it came to the Patriots offense. But bottom line, if we're looking at Bill Belichick right now, 2 out of the last 3 seasons missing the playoffs, and people are talking about Bill potentially being on the hot seat if they don't make the playoffs this year. 71 years of age. We know that he's trying to chase Don Shula and get that record. But how much pressure realistically do you see on Bill Belichick this year in terms of having to perform? Could he possibly be on the hot seat?
Well, he hit on a good one, because there's a lot to talk about with this one too. You know, it's funny to say that Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time, would be on the hot seat. I think he might be, but there's a feeling out there that he's kind of just, he has 2 years. You know, they're thinking it's going to take 2 years to break the record, and he's just kind of coaching out the string. I think the Bill Belichick that we think of when they were winning the Super Bowls, I don't know if that's the Bill Belichick that we have anymore. And I hate to say that, but it's kind of the truth. Some of the decisions he's made, you take last year as an example. I think that would be the most glaring one. For somebody who says, I'm going to do what's right for the team, I don't think anything he did last year was right for the team. Now you look at this year, and I guess you're always expecting, and I was listening to Felger and Maz today, and they were saying, so what do you think about today? And it was on Zolak and Bertrand too. What do you think is going to happen today? And some people said, well, this might be the year where he kind of talks to the media a little bit more, and he says, he takes some blame and all that stuff. And I think Zolak said, yeah, that's not going to happen. It's going to be the same old Belichick. And that they said that there's probably not another coach in sports. And when they said this, I really never thought of this, but there's really not another coach in sports that could treat the press the way he treats the press and not give any answers. And that could be directed from the owner too. At some point there has to be some humility to say, last year, I made some decisions that adversely affected the offense, and, we're not going to talk about that, but, this year, we've made some decisions to right that, and I mean, the latest thing is this whole thing with Joe Judge. I mean, I don't think I'd ever see such like a non-reaction to something where attention to detail has been a staple of the Patriots for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And there was absolutely no reaction to losing 2 OTAs for something that Joe Judge did, scheduling two meetings in the same day over 8 hours, I think is what the rule was. I mean, this is somebody that, in all honesty, Mike, he shouldn't even be here this year. Yeah, he shouldn't even be on the coaching staff this year after last year. And from what a lot of people say, there's not a lot of people that respect him other than Bill Belichick. And then on TV, he says today, well, he'll do whatever I ask him. So, again, are you making the right decision for the coaching staff just because you have a yes guy that you're not paying because the Giants are still paying him? We haven't, like Bob said, right, to reiterate his point, we haven't won in a while. So we don't have Tom Brady anymore, and you can't keep running the team like you have Tom Brady. And that's what he's done since he's been gone. You don't have him. So you can't talk to the press the same way he did. You can't, talk to the players the same. Something has to change. And I think that's the biggest worry I have about this year. Besides Bill O'Brien, I don't see a change in, how he talks and all that stuff. And there's even talk today that, and I think you might have heard this too, Mike, that there seems to still be a disconnect with Belichick and Jones. there's an I forget how they termed it, but it's almost like there hasn't been that meeting where Belichick said to him, hey, listen, you know what? I made some mistakes last year and, righted the ship. Like there hasn't been that conversation of, hey, you know what? I did some things wrong that didn't help you last year. So, I mean, it's a long-winded answer, but I don't think I just don't see the love. Nothing's changed. And I mean, we can't keep making bad decisions and, not what's doing right for the team and expect what we've been seeing to change. That would be my biggest worry.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in Patriots Nation share your curiosity, and they also share your anxiety on that too, Scott. When it comes to Joe Judge, yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised that there wasn't maybe a little bit more accountability held on that. Bill Belichick was very matter of fact when he was asked about it. He says he's a great coach. He'll be a part of our team. He'll do what I tell him to do, and that was pretty much it. When we tried to press him a little bit on the subject, Bill was basically very standoffish, saying, we've moved on. It's in the past. We're not going to talk about it. We're focused on the field today. I'm accountable. I'm responsible. And that was it. And that's pretty much when he said those words, we pretty much knew that was all that was going to be said on that subject.
So, Mike, let me ask you a question. So when you say that, right? So think about what he's saying. So he's saying he's accountable, but he never comes out and says, I mean, you could say the same thing and placate everybody if you said, you know what, I'm going to talk about it once, last year, I made some decisions that didn't work out well. But I in the off season, I addressed those issues and I don't expect it to be that way this year. So we're moving on, but he never takes that. He never takes that. He says he's accountable, but he never comes out and says, this is what I did. Right. So
I hear you.
He's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Well, if you're accountable, then say you're accountable. Don't just say I'm accountable. So what does that mean? I guess is my question. That's how I look at it.
And I think in a lot of ways what that was this is all you're going to get on the subject, and that's pretty much that. So I think that's where it ended, because the questions pretty much ended after that point when it came to Joe Judge, the OTA fiasco. That pretty much put an end to it. So I agree with you. I think there is still a lot of uneasiness about Joe Judge being here. I will say this, from the action that we saw on the field on Wednesday, he was very involved with the special teams, aspects, very involved with a lot of the special teamers out there. So it's looking like that's probably where his concerted efforts are going to be concentrated for the 2023 season, which it is a specialty. That's what he did well up here when he was a coach years ago for the New England Patriots. Dave, when it comes to the Patriots' defensive side of the ball, there haven't been many overt changes, but one thing that did change a little bit in the offseason was Gerard Mayo. He was getting much more of a promotion. He's still on this Patriots staff, even though a lot of people believe that he might chase a defensive coordinator position somewhere else, maybe even a head coaching position. The job title has not come, but apparently new responsibilities have come as a result. Is this a good move for the New England Patriots defense? Is Gerard going to end up becoming that defensive coordinator, or might he even be head coach in the waiting at this point?
Well, good. I want to talk some positivity now, so that works out well. Yes, I think them retaining Mayo was a great decision. It is curious about what position he's going to, a role he's going to have in the team. His title is the same as Steve Belichick's, which is interesting. But I think he is someone that they look at as being molded for the future. Whether that's here or not, I don't know, because we don't know what is going to happen with Bill and that sort of. It's been kind of some of the issues to go off the question for a minute, is that he used to seem to have something in place each time a coach left, and that sort of stopped happening. Where now we've seen some of the stopgaps, but. Back to the defensive part of it. Yeah, I mean, I think between Godshaw and Barmore, they have a couple of young studs there on the defensive line. I love Wise. I think Guy is good. They brought in the second rounder there, Keon White, on the end. So I think that they're pretty strong up front. I think that Dietrich has turned himself into a leader there, really working with those guys. And then, of course, Judon, he's probably him and Stevenson for the team as a whole. That's really the faces of the team, right? He's sort of the alpha right now. You got Bentley, you got Uche, some of these guys. And then, really where I think a lot of things are won and lost in the NFL now. Obviously, we always talk about quarterback play, but for my money, I talked about as edge rushers, but the cornerbacks to me is probably number 2, right? Where you need to have that stud. You need a quarterback, and then for my money, you need the cornerback. And I think they got a fantastic pick at 17 there with Gonzalez. I think the Jones boys showed some promise. Obviously, there's going to be some big shoes to fill with McCourty, but that's more on a leadership level. I mean, no disrespect to him. He had lost a step a little bit, in my opinion. But, as you saw today, they worked out a bunch of guys there. They have Mills working at the position. I think Mills is a very serviceable player. Peppers, I'm glad to see they brought him back. I was a little concerned when they didn't at the time. I think Duggar has some really good upside. He misses some plays. And we've talked about this before. I'm a safety guy. So that, maybe that's a little bit wishful thinking on my part, but Bledsoe, Phillips, they all saw spots for that free safety position to fill in today. So I think there's, and let's go back to it again for a minute. They may not have a defensive coordinator per se, but they have maybe the all-time mastermind in defense of Bill Belichick, right? So if anyone's coaching these guys up, our next man up philosophy, they're fairly deep in these positions, assuming no injuries. Let's not, knock on wood there. I think this is one of their bright spots.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree. I definitely agree with you. This team is stacked on defense. And I think the additions that they've made in terms of making Christian Gonzalez their first-round draft pick. Obviously, they're going to miss the savvy. They're going to miss the on-field presence of Devin McCourty. No one's denying that. But when you can fill that position physically with guys like Jalen Mills, I think you will see Adrian Phillips play a little bit more free this year because of the experience that he has. Even though it's not his forte, I still think he's capable of providing that type of leadership that the Patriots are going to need. And Kyle Duggar, I think, a step-up year for him. So good stuff in the secondary. The front seven continues to be a staple of this team as well. And again, Bill Belichick and Gerard Mayo and Stephen Belichick running things on the coaching side of the ball, I think the Patriots are well equipped to have this defense hold them in check when maybe the offense might not be up to the challenge. And hopefully they will be a little bit more this year with Bill O'Brien. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure, always an honor when you guys join me here, but we're not quite done yet, folks, because we're going to do a little round robin, gentlemen. And based on your historical knowledge of the New England Patriots, because you guys have covered this team, you've seen this team, you've been fans, you've been through the ups, the downs, the highs, and the lows. When you look at this team in 2023, based on the stuff that you've seen from other teams, what is your prediction for the New England Patriots? Doesn't have to be a numerical record. Might be a little bit early. If you want to throw one in, you're more than welcome to do it. But what do you see coming down the pike for these New England Patriots? I guess a bold prediction or a safe prediction, depending on the mood that you're in. Bob, we'll start with you.
They have to win at least 10 games. They really got to win the games. I mean, last year they lost a couple games in the last 2 minutes. They won a big game against the Jets in the last play. I mean, they got to play smart. And if they play smart and they stay healthy, even though it's a tough division, I mean, I'm not scared so much of Aaron Rodgers. The Jets are always the Jets. The Bills have had their chance, and if they don't do it, there's even more pressure on the Bills now than there ever has been before. So I see them faltering, and I see that there's an opening. And Miami plays is tough, but if everything falls to play and everyone stays healthy, I think we got some athletes. These last couple drafts I'm excited about. So I'm looking at 10 wins, and the Bill and Bill show leads us to the playoffs. So I have to be optimistic, and maybe I'm sweet dreams, but if we want to be a fan, you always got to be optimistic, and that's what life's all about, being optimistic. So I'm saying 10.
Definitely. You've got a sympathetic ear here. I try to be as positive as I can be here on Locked On Patriots. Scott, we go to you. Based on your historical knowledge, based on your gut reactions, based on what we've talked about tonight, what are your predictions or what is your feeling regarding these 2023 New England Patriots?
Well, I think we're going to see a better product on the field this year than we saw last year. I think you're going to see, obviously, a better offense. But I think, by what we talked about, I think we're gonna kind of get more old school Patriots this year than we have been in the past. I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to be a big factor this year. I think Ty Montgomery. I think we're going to look at more of a ball control offense, kind of like in the past. I think they are going to take some shots in the passing game, but I think the way you guys talked about, they loaded up on defense. I think defense is going to be their strong point. I think they're going to look to try to control time of possession with the running backs they have. Ty Montgomery, you can catch a pass out of the backfield. So I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a different kind of offense. And like I said, this they're going to probably I would think they're going to go back to that short passing game. And as far as a record, I'm gonna say 9-8. I think they're going to end up with the winning record. But they got a tough schedule, and I think when you look at if you match talent to talent, it's hard to say that you can compare them. I mean, at least let's say on offense. I mean, I think if you look at Miami, Buffalo, and even New York, I mean the Jets. Eventually, one year they're going to have a good year. I mean, they're loaded on wide receiver. I mean, they do have Aaron Rodgers now, so. If you look at pure offensive talent, not knowing what Mac Jones is going to, is Mac Jones going to turn into, a star in the league? Is he going to turn into, a very good quarterback? Not knowing that, if you stack up talent for each team in the division and even in the AFC, it's hard to say that the Patriots measure up. They got a lot of good guys, but again, they don't have that star. And it could be Ramondre Stevenson. It could be him. Schuster, I didn't mention him in the beginning, but really, if you look at it, he was a move that the Patriots make a lot of. He kind of fell to the Patriots. They didn't have to pay a lot of money for him. So it's not like they went out and got that stud wide receiver. I mean, JuJu kind of fell to them, and then it was the right amount of money, so the Patriots signed him. So, like I said, that would be my only caveat. But I think they're going to be defensively strong. I think they're going to go back to a ball control offense. So and they'll be 9-8, and hopefully I'm wrong and they win a lot more. But that's what I'm sticking with.
Very good, Dave, the man with the greatest patience in the room right now. What are you seeing for these New England Patriots based on where they've been and where you think they can possibly go?
Well, the biggest issue is, I agree with Scott. I think they'll have a better offensive product out there. I think they always have a good defensive product. I think they were abysmal in special teams last year, which made a big deal. You talk about accountability. Cam Akers shouldn't have a job. Maybe they should have put a Judge there and just straightened that out. But anyway, there's my inner Scott coming out. But as far as the team goes, I mean, Vegas has them over under of 7.5. I do see them as over. I like Bob's optimism. And I think we all want them we want to be wrong. We'd love to see them be 14-2, but realistically speaking, I will say they'll be over that 7.5. Do I think they're going to be a playoff team or make any moves in the playoffs? I don't. And a lot of that has to do with really the strength of schedule. I mean, they've got the third, I don't know what you want to say, worst strength of schedule. The combined teams that they're playing had last year a 549 winning percentage. That's tough. They're in a tough division. I think the Brady game it's going to be great for the fans. I don't think it's going to be great for the team. Well,
let me throw a caveat. Brady might be playing. he could be starting for the Raiders, so that could come to fruition.
That has been debunked. There are rules that you can't be a owner and a player, so you would have to file paperwork too. So yeah, because that would have been kind of cool, but no. So I wish I obviously want them to win, but I have to be realistic. I think they'll have closer games. I think they'll have some solid things. I think they will grow as a team, but I just don't see them being a playoff team or being much over 500.
Folks, definitely check them out on Untold Patriots Stories. It is a phenomenal podcast, and the wisdom and counsel that they lent tonight, folks, doesn't just come from a fan's perspective. It also comes from a historical perspective as well. Three of the great Patriot minds in the business grace the airwaves tonight here on Locked On Patriots, and we are thrilled to have them, and we can't wait to have you guys back. Before I let you go, gentlemen, please, let's go around the room one more time. Let everyone know, all of our listeners, where they can find you, your great work, and anything you'd like us to know about Untold Patriot Stories or any project you currently have going on right now. Bob, let's start with you.
Yeah, so our subtitle for Untold Patriot Story is Overcoming Obstacles and Adversity to Become Better People. So a lot of the stories that we have with not only players and coaches and media people is getting some little bit of wisdom, a little bit of something to get you through maybe a stress or an anxiety or something that you might have gone through or going through. And if you can listen to, Tali Betacan said, show up, when you're participating, show up, be there spiritually, mentally, physically, and just engaged to whoever you're talking to, your son, your wife, your teacher, just so little things like that. Dietrich Wise, his whole belief system and the mindset and all that kind of stuff. So that's a lot of what we want to kind of get across is that there were guys get to an elite level, but they got there because they were encouraged and supported somewhere along the way. And then they believed in themselves, and then they acted as a team player and did their job and do what they have to do. So those are some of the lessons that we like to bring out. And, some of the historical facts when we go back to 1960, although we haven't had too many players back from then, but there's a lot of history with the Boston Patriots, and a lot of fans that are listening to us throughout the world like to hear some of those stories from the 70s and 80s when maybe we had one good team every 10 years. So hopefully we'll come back to that and be a playoff team. And if there's anyone out there that's interested in kind of working with that mentality and the mindset, that's kind of one of the things that I'm doing now is doing some personal coaching and sharing some of these stories and with people to kind of help them upgrade themselves. So appreciate that little shout out for people that want to kind of relieve some of the stress and anxiety of life. Reach out to me and see if we can help you.
Absolutely. So well said, Bob, and thank you. Scott, floor is yours, my friend.
All right. So the one thing I want to say is, when we started this and brought Dave in, that they say you're not working if you're doing something you love. And, although Dave likes to pick on me because I'm negative, as being a Patriots fan and as a diehard Patriots fan as I am, we got spoiled, and it's just, it's hard to watch some of the stuff we've watched over the last couple of years when you look at what the organization was like. So it's not so much being negative as just, calling it as I see it as what's happening now. But as far as the podcast, if you're a Patriots fan and you like to hear stuff come directly from the mouths of players or somebody in the media or, the amount of people we've had on, I mean, we've done a lot of episodes. It's been in July. It'll be a year, believe it or not. And I think we're going to be close to 60 or not even maybe even over 60 episodes. And it's truly been a lot of fun. And, to hear some of the stuff that these guys say. And I think that one of the biggest things is I think that we all take away from this is when we've done these podcasts at the end of the podcast, the amount of times we've heard, thank you guys for talking to me and, having me on. And, this is great what you're doing for these guys. And whether it's even an email or a text after the podcast for, just to say, I want to tell some other guys because that was just really nice, that you want to talk to some of these, these older players and players that haven't been around for a while and think that they're forgotten. So I think when we're fans, when we do this, I don't think sometimes we realize how much of an impact we have on the lives of some of these guys that played, and are suffering from CTE or have, bad knees or whatever it is. And to Bob's point, they went through some pretty intense stuff. So I think there's a lot of stuff we have out there, and we always try to get, one story from each player that nobody would have known unless that player told them. And we've had some good ones. had some great guests, Bob Lobel from the media, Upton Bell, some great players. I mean, there's a whole list. So you can find us anywhere where you get your podcast, Untold Patriots Stories. And I think if you take the time to listen, even from the beginning, you're going to hear a lot of great stories. And if you're a Patriots fan, you're going to enjoy them. And, one of the things we try to do is get better. We do a lot of things different now, just like I'm sure, Mike, you've done. We do a lot of things different from when we first started the podcast. We're going to start doing some live podcasts. We got, all the equipment to do that. We're going to be doing something at Pearl Street Station. And what's the date on that, Bob?
June 25th.
June 25th, Sunday. It's Sunday after Father's Day. So we'll do some trivia and we'll give away some stuff. So your father deserves even more on Father's Day. We're going to extend Father's Day for another week. So come on down.
Yeah, Mike, if you're around, we'd love to have you come down. But
that happens to be the day after my birthday, gentlemen. I would love to spend that weekend with you. So you know what? Let's hook this up, folks. Let's do it. You can
come down and have some good food at Pearl Street Station, and do a live one. We're going to do some trivia and all that stuff. But we're branching out a little bit with that. But we've really enjoyed it, and we definitely appreciate somebody like you. We had you on our podcast. Now you're having us on yours, and how long have you been doing this, Mike?
In August, it'll be my 4th year as host of Locked On Patriots, and it feels like I just started the other day. I really had. It's been a tremendous ride, and having the opportunity to be one of the first guests on your pod, I believe I was one of the early ones. Really was truly an honor, and I was truly grateful for that. And I'm so glad that you guys had the opportunity to join me here tonight. And Dave, I haven't forgotten about you. The floor is still yours, my friend. Please let everyone know where they can find you, interact with you, and anything else you'd like our listeners here on Locked On Patriots to know.
Yeah, no, I'd love to have you on the show because that was BD before Dave when and it exponentially has gotten better since. But I'd say it's better equipment. But anyway, no, I mean these guys have done a good service to our podcast with what they've said so far. The only thing that I will add to that is, we've had some big name people, Hall of Famers like Steve Nelson, big names that people would probably, if they looked on the list to go to. What we've found is some of these guys that you may not have heard of have some of the best stories. Right. We had a guest on, Elgin Davis, who you may never have heard of, played 9 games for the Patriots in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And he was just, I can't even the right word. We had chills talking to him. Very powerful podcast. I guess that's the way to put it. A whole range of emotions. Very, very interesting man. I don't do a lot of promoting on my personal pages of it, but when we did that, I was like, please listen to this. If you're going to listen to our show, listen to Elgin Davis. So they may surprise you. Some of the people that maybe you weren't as interested in at the beginning, that really have some great things to say. And we try and keep it light. Bob always tries to bring in, some of the becoming better people. I've had folks, particularly some of the media people that we've had on that have dealt with, either alcoholism or depression and things, and, how they still are on top and being successful. So I think that's the extra twist we bring to it. It's much more personalized and, just everyday people over and above them being, famous for sports.
Absolutely. And sometimes the greatest stories are the ones that you didn't expect to have told. And that's what you can find, folks, on Untold Patriots Stories. Again, my honor, my privilege to have been one of their guests, and each and every episode gets better than the next. Definitely check that out wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, folks, thank you all so much for continuing to make Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage and your first listen every day. On behalf of 3 great men, and I say that without hesitation and without qualification, Bob Hyldburg, Scott Prusak, Dave Usher, I am Mike Debate. Thank you once again, folks. Continue to stay safe and stay well. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Patriots.
Go Pats.